The Brooklyn Nets are looking great, aren't they? After a very dramatic start to their season, on the court and off it too, the Nets are finally gathering some momentum in the East. Most of it has been due to Kevin Durant's exceptional performances, and Kyrie's been chipping in too, but they won against the Indiana Pacers without any help from their Big Three. Let's take a look at their impressive win over the Pacers, starting with a recap of the match. The Nets traveled to Indiana without the likes of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, and some of their other stars. It was more or less a game they had little to no hopes from, with the Pacers fielding their strongest team against the Nets. But what surprised everyone was the way the Nets started the match. They were out of the blocks very quickly and had 40 points in an entertaining first quarter. The Pacers weren't too far behind with a 2-point game, but with 78 total points scored in the first quarter, we knew everyone was in for a fun night. The second quarter was more of what everyone had expected at the beginning of the match, with the Pacers gaining control of the game. They were good from the range and kept putting this young Nets side under pressure, and it paid off as they went to halftime with a healthy 7-point lead. For the Pacers, the likes of Miles Turner and Buddy Hield were the usual suspects who piled on the pressure. Jalen Smith had started the game and scored 13 from the 13 minutes he spent on the court, but the players they had coming from the bench were also really good.
Yeah, whatever you do, you get in the middle, you collapse the defense, you get some good things.
O'Shai Brissett scored 14, while Aaron Nesmith had 12, and the home crowd knew that after a decent third quarter where they kept up with the pace of the Nets and slowed down the game, the Pacers were on the brink of a victory. After that, the fourth quarter comeback. Despite Indiana having the game under control, the Nets had a surprise from them in the fourth quarter. The inexperienced Brooklyn side absolutely exploded in the last quarter, and it was a fantastic watch. They played a similar brand of basketball to the way they played to start the match and kept pushing for a comeback. Markieff Morris and Day'Ron Sharpe came up with a double-double, and their contributions throughout the game were so significant. Sharpe in particular produced a very mature performance for someone who is only 21, and his impact went well beyond the numbers he produced as well. The Pacers, though, looked like the inexperienced side in the final quarter. They simply couldn't live with the extraordinary pressure applied by the Nets, who kept on coming and forcing turnovers. Many of them proved to be very crucial, and the Nets didn't waste their opportunities at the other end. Patty Mills and Edmund Sumner also came up with valuable contributions, as the Pacers just let their lead slip. Suddenly, the Nets had the lead in a full chaotic manner, and it felt like everything was going in from the Brooklyn side. Mills sunk in a superb three-pointer to put some daylight between the two sides, and suddenly the Nets could see the finish line. But it wasn't until Cam Thomas's jumper that the Nets truly started believing in the cause. With a couple of free throws, the Nets had a 3-point lead only with a few seconds left, and that was that, with the Nets winning 136-133. Moving on, the Nets win without the services of their superstars. The surprising bit wasn't the Nets winning. They've been in great form, and they have a superb roster with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving firing on all cylinders. It was actually the fact that the Nets were without their services and most of the other rotation players when they traveled to Indiana. For a team with a 14-13 record, it was an extraordinary display from the Nets to come out as winners from that game. In fact, we'll go out on a limb and say that this win might just be the turning point of the Nets season so far. Now, the management and the coaches can realize that they can rely most on their roster to win games, which is something of a luxury when you've got your superstars to smack dab in the middle of a golden run. And boy, did the Nets need that. After all the drama earlier in the season, it must feel good to have a lucky break. Now, the Nets can truly focus on using this momentum and continuing this form as they build towards a higher finish in the East. Plus, it gives their big guns a well-deserved rest as well. Kevin and Kyrie have been putting in some major shifts in the last two games for the Nets, in particular, scoring at will and helping the Nets win. And now, they can come back straight in when the Nets play the Wizards next. Up next, the stars of the show for the Nets. So with Kyrie, Simmons, and Kevin Durant the notable absentees, who are the players that turned up for the Nets against the Pacers? First up, Cam Thomas. We start with the shooting guard who was a first-round pick of the 2021 NBA draft. Born in Japan, Thomas has had a slow start to life in the NBA, and this was his first big performance for the Nets. And he didn't disappoint. Playing just under half an hour, Thomas came up with 33 points and scored all 3 of his 3-point attempts, while also grabbing 3 boards. Something about the number 3, huh? He also made 13 of his 20 field goal attempts and got the game-high 33 in Indiana. Then, Patty Mills. One of the most underrated players, Patty Mills, got the chance to play most of the game for the first time this season, and he really played out of his skin. The veteran guard produced a two-way performance, coming up with 6 rebounds and 6 assists, while also grabbing a steal. His shooting wasn't very effective, but he still got 24 points from the 34 minutes he spent on the court, and after missing 7 consecutive games, it's been a great comeback for the 34-year-old. Also, Edmund Sumner. One of the best performances on the night came from Edmund Sumner, a player the Pacers would definitely know know a lot about, considering he spent 4 years on their roster. His career never really took off in Indiana, and even for the Nets, he hasn't been anything of a revelation, but he turned up when it mattered most, playing 27 minutes for 21 points, 5 assists, and 7 rebounds. He was instrumental in keeping the Nets in the game on many occasions in the second and third quarters. On to Day'Ron Sharpe. One of the most underrated talents that Brooklyn has, Day'Ron Sharpe could genuinely push Nick Claxton for a starting berth. He's still 2 years younger than Claxton, but his performance against the Pacers was very impressive, and he could feature more as the season progresses. Sharpe was sensational, and probably the best player on the court as well. Playing just over half an hour, he got 20 points along with 12 rebounds. But his contributions didn't stop there, as he also had 2 blocks and an assist to go with all that. A very talented player. We hope Sharpe gets to play more for the Nets this season. Not to forget Markieff Morris. The 33-year-old may have been something of a forgotten man, playing every now and then for the Nets, but he too came up with a double-double against the Pacers. It really did require a team effort to win, and Morris did a bit of everything. He had a steal and a block each, while he came up with 2 assists in the 32 minutes as well. But the best bit was the 15 points he scored from 4 of 7 shooting and the 11 rebounds he grabbed to help keep the Nets in the ascendancy. Followed by what's next for Brooklyn. After a shocking result in Indiana, what next do the Nets have on their schedule? Well, they have a trip to make to Washington, as the Wizards will be hosting the 4th-ranked team in the East. Despite a poor start to the campaign, the Nets find themselves only a win away from the Cavaliers and 3 away from the Milwaukee Bucks. Those who have seen the Nets in action in recent weeks know that something special is brewing in Brooklyn, but they've got a bit of a tricky schedule coming up. They're on the road for their next 3 games, with the first one in Washington before going to Toronto and then to Detroit. But these are all 3 winnable games that Brooklyn should be winning after the kind of form they find themselves in. Should they record 3 wins on the road, the Nets will be very well placed for the Christmas fixtures, which begin with the Warriors visiting Brooklyn and the Bucks coming to town as well. Some crucial games, and if the Nets can win these, they might be well above the Cavaliers when they travel to Cleveland after Christmas. Finally, the Nets can rely on their bench strength, and given their tough schedule, the win against the Pacers becomes even more important. That's because now Jacques Vaughn realizes that he can truly rely on some of the youngsters and the veterans to produce similar performances whenever the likes of Kyrie and KD need some rest. And if KD is well rested along with Irving, they're a totally different beast. But if you can afford it, it's truly a luxury. Something that, despite having 3 superstars, the Nets haven't been able to afford. With Sharpe's great performance, he could also make a couple of appearances in place of Nick Claxton, who seems to be the weak spot of this Nets side. But most importantly, Cam Thomas showcased that he's ready for more minutes too. The Nets could easily have lost the game to the Pacers, but there would have been positive signs even in a loss. And that's what would probably please Vaughn the most, because now he has options and things are finally looking up in Brooklyn. That's a wrap for this video. How high do you think the Brooklyn Nets can finish in the East? Can they finish above the Milwaukee Bucks potentially? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you liked our video, please share this video with your family and with your friends, and click on the notification bell to be informed when we upload new videos. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we will see you in the next one.